Jimmy Kimmel may be off the air, but the fallout from his suspension is growing and growing. Kimmel was spotted in Los Angeles for the first time since his show went dark. And there are protesters that gathered outside the lot of ABC's parent company, Disney, demanding that Kimmel be brought back. They're saying his suspension is an attack on free speech.
Tonight, we are all Jimmy Kimmel.
Stop going to Marvel movies. Stop seeing Disney films. Stop going to Disney World.
What happens when Disney, the world's most powerful entertainment empire, suddenly loses one of its biggest late-night stars to the competition? Not in some quiet, behind-the-scenes deal, but in a record-shattering $150 million contract that instantly flips the balance of power. That's exactly what just happened when Jimmy Kimmel shocked Hollywood by signing an exclusive deal with Netflix, and the fallout is already shaking Disney to its core.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
For years, Kimmel was one of Disney's most recognizable faces on ABC. But after a storm of censorship, political backlash, and network silence, he's turned the tables in the boldest way possible, walking straight into Netflix's arms. The deal isn't just huge money, it's a declaration of war. And almost overnight, the move set off a chain reaction that has Disney executives scrambling, Wall Street panicking, and fans rallying behind Kimmel like never before.
Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else.
Because this isn't just about one comedian changing networks. This is about free speech, corporate power, and the fragile empire that Disney built now teetering on the edge. With boycotts spreading, investors pulling out, and even Disney insiders admitting panic, the question isn't whether Jimmy Kimmel comes out on top, it's whether Disney itself can survive the storm it created. The announcement hit like a lightning strike. Netflix revealed it had signed Jimmy Kimmel to a $150 million exclusive deal, instantly making it one of the richest late-night contracts in history. For fans, it was shocking. For Disney, it was devastating.
A lot of people are worried that we won't keep saying what we want to say or that we'll be censored.
Tonight, we are all Jimmy Kimmel.
Overnight, a comedian who once defined ABC's late-night identity was now the crown jewel of Netflix's expanding empire. Kimmel didn't just leave quietly. He left with the kind of deal that screamed revenge. After months of controversy over censorship and political pressure at Disney, the Netflix announcement felt like a deliberate slap in the face. Not only was he was leaving with more power, more money, and more freedom than ever before. Industry insiders described it as the boldest late-night shakeup in decades. Analysts said it was a direct declaration of war against Disney. Netflix wasn't just buying a host, it was buying the controversy, the headlines, and the millions of fans who suddenly had a reason to cancel Disney subscriptions and jump ship. And for Disney executives, caught completely off guard by the timing and scale of the deal, one thing became clear: the fallout had only just begun. Inside Disney's headquarters in Burbank, the reaction was immediate chaos. Emergency meetings stretched late into the night. Executives argued over what to do next, with one camp insisting Disney should ignore the move, while others warned that Netflix had just stolen one of their strongest weapons. The panic was palpable. Affiliates who once relied on Kimmel's show to fill late-night slots were furious. Advertisers, unsure whether Disney could recover its cultural influence, began quietly pulling back. And the Wall Street response was brutal. Within hours of the Netflix announcement, analysts downgraded Disney's stock, citing fears that Kimmel's departure would accelerate the wave of boycotts and cancellations already hammering the company. Morale inside Disney collapsed. Employees described the atmosphere as apocalyptic. The company that once looked untouchable now looked vulnerable, and while Disney tried to put on a brave face, the truth was obvious. Netflix had just delivered a knockout punch. The cracks were showing everywhere, and the panic wasn't just inside boardrooms. It was spreading across the entire Disney empire. The Netflix deal poured gasoline on a fire that was already burning. Fans who were outraged by Disney's handling of Kimmel's suspension now had a rallying point. Hashtags like #CancelDisney and #support. Kimmel flooded social media. Millions of subscribers announced they were done with Disney Plus and Hulu. Instead, they promised to follow Kimmel wherever he went. And that meant Netflix. The boycott wasn't just digital. Families canceled Disney vacations. Marvel fans swore off upcoming films. Online communities circulated lists of Disney merchandise to avoid, from toys to streaming bundles. What began as a protest against censorship had now grown into a consumer revolt threatening every corner of Disney's business. Meanwhile, Netflix played the move like a masterstroke. The company rolled out marketing that positioned Kimmel as the face of uncensored comedy, contrasting its own creative freedom with Disney's image of control and corporate panic. Every headline about Kimmel's deal doubled as a headline about Disney's collapse. By the end of the first week, analysts estimated millions of cancellations had hit Disney's platforms. It wasn't just a setback, it was a cultural shift. For the first time in years, Disney wasn't the one shaping the narrative, it was the one being shaped by it. And the deeper the boycott cut, the clearer it became. The Netflix deal was more than a contract. It was a declaration of independence. If the boycotts were a fire, Wall Street was the explosion. Within days of the Netflix announcement, Disney's stock price began a free fall. Billions of dollars in market value were wiped out almost overnight, leaving investors furious and analysts scrambling to adjust their forecasts. What had once been considered one of the safest media stocks in the world was now flashing red. Credit agencies quickly flagged Disney's rising debt exposure as a serious risk. Subscription losses meant reduced cash flow, and with billions already tied up in theme park expansions, streaming investments, and Marvel's declining returns, the company suddenly looked fragile. Every direction Disney turns, it loses, one analyst bluntly declared. Meanwhile, Netflix's stock told the opposite story. Riding the wave of positive headlines, shares surged as investors bet big on Kimmel's arrival. For Wall Street, the contrast couldn't have been clearer. Netflix was bold, growing, and fearless, while Disney was weak, defensive, and bleeding from every side. The financial markets had delivered their verdict, and it wasn't in Disney's favor. But the real danger wasn't just money, it was the story those numbers told to the world. The deeper the fallout spread, the more Disney's reputation crumbled. For decades, it had been the face of family-friendly storytelling, a brand trusted by millions worldwide. But now, it was branded as something very different, a corporation that silences its stars and caves under political pressure. Civil liberties groups and free speech advocates jumped on the Netflix deal as proof that Disney no longer stood for creativity. Netflix, in contrast, was celebrated as the new defender of uncensored comedy. International media outlets painted the controversy as a cautionary tale, a once magical empire becoming a partisan pawn. Polls revealed just how much damage had been done. Consumer trust in Disney plummeted, with families openly questioning whether to renew subscriptions, book vacations, or even buy Disney merchandise. For a company that relied on its image as much as its products, this wasn't just bad PR, it was an identity crisis. And at the heart of it all was Jimmy Kimmel. Silent, strategic, and suddenly more powerful than Disney itself. What began as one man signing a Netflix contract had spiraled into something much bigger. Disney was no longer just losing subscribers, it was losing its grip on culture, politics, and public trust. Every day brought new cancellations, new headlines, and new doubts about whether the empire could recover. Inside boardrooms, the choices were all toxic. Reinstating Kimmel meant inviting a political war. Staying silent made the boycott stronger. Fighting Netflix directly risked humiliating defeat. Disney was stuck in a no-win scenario, bleeding from every angle. And all the while, the constitutional debate raged louder. Legal experts warned that the Kimmel case had opened a Pandora's box. Could government pressure silence entertainers? Could corporations survive cultural boycotts without collapsing? Suddenly, Disney wasn't just fighting for its business. It was fighting for its future relevance. Disney thought silencing Jimmy Kimmel would end the controversy. Instead, it gave him the biggest deal of his career and turned him into a symbol of free speech, independence, and corporate rebellion, one that Disney may never recover from. Jimmy Kimmel's $150 million Netflix deal didn't just mark a personal victory, it shattered the illusion of Disney's invincibility. For years, Disney controlled the narrative, shaping culture with its films, its theme parks, and its late-night voices. But in one move, Kimmel flipped the script. The host who was silenced on ABC suddenly became the symbol of freedom on Netflix. And that contrast exposed Disney's greatest weakness, its fear of losing control. Disney now finds itself trapped in a nightmare of its own making. Subscriptions are vanishing at record speed. Stock prices are sliding, wiping billions in value. Families are canceling vacations, boycotting merchandise, and abandoning Marvel films. And the company's once polished image as a family-friendly giant has crumbled into something darker, a corporation accused of silencing dissent and bowing to political pressure. Meanwhile, Netflix has emerged as the hero of the story. By handing Kimmel a record-breaking deal, the streaming giant positioned itself as the fearless alternative, the platform that doesn't just entertain but empowers. And in an industry where perception is everything, that bold move may pay dividends far beyond ratings. It's not just about Jimmy Kimmel anymore, it's about who Hollywood and the public trust to protect creativity. The bigger question now isn't whether Disney can recover, it's how many more stars will follow Kimmel out the door. If Netflix can poach one of Disney's most high-profile hosts, what stops them from courting others? What happens if Fallon, Colbert, or even Disney's own Marvel talent decide the grass is greener somewhere else? The Kimmel deal might not just be a blow, it could be the beginning of an exodus. Disney thought silencing Jimmy Kimmel would end the controversy. Instead, it gave him the biggest deal of his career and turned him into a rallying cry for millions who feel censored, ignored, or betrayed. And as the air scrambles to stop the bleeding, one reality becomes impossible to ignore. The storm is just beginning. Because if Jimmy Kimmel can bring Disney to its knees with a single Netflix contract, imagine what happens when the next domino falls.